Hello and welcome to In the Roud. Greetings and salutations, dear listeners. This is In the Roud, a folk song podcast, and I'm your host, Matt Quinn. Join me as we travel through the world of traditional folk song, one song per episode in the order they appear in the Roud Index. Each episode will feature two guests, one providing an historical look at the song, while the other will be a singer from the folk music scene to talk about their own version of the song. This podcast is proud to be partly sponsored by the Traditional Song Forum. Meeting regularly, both in person and online, the TSF provides a place for a variety of topics relating to folk song, song collectors, singers, and many other aspects of folk song research to be discussed and presented. It's free to join and most meetings are free to attend. So discover more about the TSF at tradsong.org. That's tradsong.org. I hope you're all doing well out there in folk song land. As you can tell from my voice, I'm not quite 100%. I've just, a date of recording this, I've just come out of a few days of battling with COVID, so most of my body is back to normal, you'll be pleased to hear, but the voice still quite croaky, but time and podcast deadlines march onwards ever. So let's just get going. And we're looking at Roud 49 this week. This is the penultimate episode of this season. Roud 49, Child Ballad 76, which is called The Lass of Roch Royal, also known as Lord Gregory. Later on, we're going to hear from our singer guest, Maddy Pryor, but for now, let's take a look at the song's history with one of our regular contributors, Martin Nail. Well, hello and welcome back to In the Roud. Martin Nail, hello.
Hello, Matt. How are you doing?
Hello. Oh, I'm not too bad, thank you. I say a little busy, but then I'd say that most weeks. We're always busy, but yeah, things are all right. Things going well. Just feeling, it's podcast work is what I do most of the year, as well as other things. But I'm just carrying on with that. But it is now the 25th of November, which means that the Sheffield Carols season has begun.
Right, of course.
And so filling my head is now, as well as filled with loads of facts about all these old ballads, my head is now swimming with the lyrics to umpteen different carols and the tune and, 40...
Umpteen different versions of While Shepherds Watched.
Yeah, I was about to say umpteen different tunes for While Shepherds Watched, which is enormously entertaining. And it's a pleasure to be back out singing carols again, even if it is in mid-November, but that's what happens. It's just like it's like that's the thing. This is totally nothing to do with this song, but that thing of we all get cross when the shops, as soon as Halloween's finished, the shops have their Christmas stuff on sale, but which we all complain about, but we don't really complain that the Sheffield Carols start on the second week of November.
No.
Strangely hypocritical.
That's traditional, that.
Oh, that's traditional. Okay, yeah, fine. Yeah, that's all right then. How are you? How's things?
Oh, I'm okay. Getting along.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, well, it's nice to have you back. Your third appearance. I'm not going to keep counting, but it's your third appearance after Lord Randall at the end of season 1 and the Cruel Brother in the middle of season 3, and here we are now in the middle of, at the tail end of season 5. Can't quite believe end of season 5 already.
Yes, being 49, you've only got 50 to go.
50. Oh, the song number 50, not 50 songs. Yes, next week will be Sweet William's Ghost, which is another child ballad, obviously. Yes, but in terms of the Roud Index, 49 down, another 48,000 to go.
Yeah.
But it keeps me off the streets, and
But no, it's an excellent project.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. It's always a pleasure to have you on. So, we're looking at round 49, which we were discussing master titles and all the various titles just before we started recording. Um, and we've decided, because a lot of people will know this song as Lord Gregory, and a lot of people will know it as The Lass of Roch Royal, hence I've called the episode The Lass of Roch Royal, aka Lord Gregory, just so that everyone knows what song we're talking about. But even then, that could cause some problems later on, which we'll come to with a certain Scottish traditional singer. But we'll come to that in a while. Start us off, as we always do, Lass of Roch Royal, Lord Gregory. Give us the plot and what's the song about, and give us the plot of the song.
Okay, what I'm going to do is talk about what I would call the core of the story, and then go on to bits which don't occur in all versions, but are and may or may not be important.
Okay.
The core of the story, I think, is that a young woman with a baby in her arms, or in some versions, a pregnant young woman, arrives at the gate or door of her lover, Lord Gregory, and asks to be let in. Um, what she's greeted by his mother pretending to be him behind the locked door.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
the mother the mother requests proof that the woman is who she says she is by recounting three love tokens that the couple had exchanged. Um, the young woman describes these, and there's usually three of them, though in some versions one of them's got lost and there's only two. Um, and it's usually, though not always, it is usually apparent that the tokens that she gave to her lover are more valuable than the ones that he gave to her. So so she gives him a gold ring, but the one he gives her is made of tin.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and the final token that she recounts is very often that she gave him her maidenhead. The mother is sort of unmoved by this recitation of tokens and tells her to go away. A bit later, Lord Gregory wakes up and tells his mother he has dreamt about the woman and dreamt she was at the door. Or sometimes he just wakes up and sort of says, "Was that my sweetheart at the door?" sort of thing, without a dreaming element. And the mother says, "Oh yes, yes, she was here, half an hour ago or whatever." But the mother had turned her away, and Gregory curses his mother and said, "Why didn't you wake me up?" And mourns his presumably dead sweetheart. And
Right.
that, I think, is the essential, what you have to have in the ballad for it to count as being this ballad, if you like. But
Unlike what we'll talk about later on. Yeah.
yes, the um, but there are two important bits that I haven't mentioned, which come before and after that. And the bit that comes before the knocking at the door verses, which doesn't occur in all versions, but in I think probably most, describes her journey to Lord Gregory's castle. And there are maybe three different aspects to that, one of which is often starts with her having a ship built for
Oh,
her.
okay. Right. Yeah.
Or maybe she just obtains a ship in some way. In one version, at least, she's given a ship by her father, and she sails off in it. Um, Sort of the implication is she's alone, but I think that means she's the only passenger. There's a sort of must be a crew to the boat, because at some point there's, well, at least one version she says something like "row on, my bold mariners" or something. Um, Now, in the course of this journey, she meets a group of people, or maybe just a single person, a merchant, or in some cases a robber, um, who puts three questions to her. And that is very interesting that it's three, because it's a ballad, so things must come in threes.
Of
But I mean,
course,
that
of
these
course.
three questions parallel the three questions that the mother asks at the door.
Right.
And the questions that these people ask are, some of them are rather mysterious. And in the one in the oldest version is very mysterious. But they might be something like, "Are you the Queen herself? Are you one of her Marys? Or are you the lass of Roch Royal?" Um, and from this, it's apparent that the questioner actually knows who she is, really. But for some reason, they have to go through this little pantomime of who are you? And when it's confirmed that she is the lass of Roch Royal, they say, "Oh, well, you need to go over there. Lord Gregory's castle's down there." So she goes off. And well, we'll come back to some of this in a bit later. But some people think that's, one of the most important sections of the ballad, even though it doesn't appear in all versions. And the other little issue that occurs in this part of the ballad is the question of whether she has been banished from her parents' house. And there's at least two versions where she says, I banished from my kith and kin" or something. And the assumption people make is that she was banished because she was pregnant out of wedlock, which is not exactly unknown in traditional song for
Yeah.
women to be banished in those circumstances. But it's certainly not in all the versions. And as I just said, in this one version, the father gives her a boat to sail off in, on perfectly friendly terms, as it were. So that is the sort of prequel, as you like, to the verses we started with. And
Right.
then
Yeah.
what happens afterwards, I just said, you know, he curses his mother and mourns his sweetheart. Well, I mean, that's in most versions, that's expanded considerably, and he goes off in search of her, sometimes calling for the best horses from the stable, which is somewhat illogical if the woman has arrived by boat, but then calling for the best horses from the stable is another little ballad trope that crops up all over the place. Anyhow, so he goes off in search of her, and he usually finds her dead, or perhaps he gets to the seashore and she's offshore on a boat, and then the boat gets wrecked and he has to wade out to sea to get her body, and the baby is usually dead as well. And it might end there, or maybe Lord Gregory lies down beside her body, and in the morning he's dead. So that section again is obviously an important bit of the ballad, and it varies a lot in detail and in which of those sort of elements are present. But most versions of the ballad have some part of this bit of the story.
Right. Yeah. It's sort of a lot of variation in there. It's
Yes, I'll just mention two more variants, as it were. In
yeah.
a couple of versions, there is the sort of Rose and Briar verse. One was buried in Mary's Isle, the other in Mary's Choir, and out of the one there grew a thorn, and out of the other a briar. Well, which Barbara Allen, Lord Lovell.
Lord Lovell was last week's episode,
Oh well.
and so yeah, Steve Gardam spoke about that quite a bit.
Oh, good.
And yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Well, I won't say any more, except it's obviously crept into this ballad.
yeah.
The versions that it is in, it has crept in from elsewhere.
There you
The other little set of commonplace verses, which are important in trying to disentangle the history of this ballad is a set of verses which begin something like, "Who will shoe my bonny foot? Who will glove my hand?" Now, those verses in, I think, the older versions come immediately after the mother has, in pretending to be Lord Gregory, after that episode, she says, "Well, who's going to glove my little hand," and so on, and "who's going to be father to my baby?" And logically enough, that comes at that point in the ballad after the mother has rejected her.
Right.
In some, but there's at least the Elizabeth Cronin version, she gets rejected twice, and it comes after the first rejection, and you go on to the love tokens after that. But a lot of later versions, this "Who will shoe my bonny feet" comes right at the beginning of the ballad. It's the first verses of the ballad,
Yeah.
which seems to me, well, and other people, that's not a sort of logical place. And I think it was originally and ought to be after the mother's rejection. And the other issue in relation to this set of verses is they have become detached from the ballad and turned into either a song of their own or as verses of a different song. And this causes problems. And I'll just give you a little quote from the Traditional Ballad Index, where Bob Walsh says, "This song has created a great deal of confusion because of the attempt of certain scholars to make everything a child ballad. Some versions of the song contain the verses beginning, 'Who will shoe your pretty little feet and who will glove your hand?' Therefore, anything containing these verses is filed by those scholars as Child 76, even though the songs they so file contain no other portions of the Lass of Roch Royal. And in fact, the pretty little foot stanzas aren't integral to Roch Royal." And Bob Walsh says, "It's my personal feeling they originated elsewhere and floated into this song rather than reverse." I'm not so sure about that. I think they'd probably floated out. And I would also add to this that a lot of people who do this then use child's title, "The Lass of Roch Royal," irrespective of the content, irrespective of any mention of Lord Gregory or the Lass of Roch Royal in the song, and irrespective of whatever the singer might have called it. So
Yes.
there's a great these verses have caused a great deal of confusion. And if you look at Bronson, where he has 24 versions
Oh,
of the ballad,
these are the tunes for the child ballads,
the
Bronson's.
tunes
Yeah.
for the child ballads, say, well, we're getting on. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead of myself a bit there. Look, here's 24 versions. If you ignore all the ones that aren't really the ballad, there's only actually 8 there.
Yes. Yeah. Most of them are "Who will shoe my pretty little foot" songs,
That's right, yes.
but they're all there in Bronson. It's confusing.
Can I just make another 2 final points about, what's the plot of the song? Um, One thing is that some writers have assumed that the lass is of lower status than Lord Gregory. Maybe it's because it says Lord in front of his name. And even coming up with phrases like "a peasant girl seduced by a lord."
Oh,
But the indications in all the valid versions I've seen is that she isn't. She's sufficiently high status perhaps to have a ship built.
well,
Um,
indeed, yes.
as I just mentioned about the love tokens, usually the ones that Lord Gregory gives are of less value than the ones that she gives. And some there are even more recent Irish versions that begin with the line, "I am a king's daughter." Now, all of those suggest to me that this assumption that she's of lower status is is, I would say, based on a misreading of the ballad. One tiny point to finish up is in some versions, the mother, in the course of rejecting her, the mother says, "You're a witch, or warlock, or mermaid." Um, but ironically, it is actually the mother who is displaying more witch-like characteristics, because she's the one who's able to impersonate her son and make her voice sound like someone else, and that sounds to be more witch-like than
Hmm.
anything that the lass actually does.
Indeed. Wow. Yes, I hadn't thought of that. Fascinating. Um, so how far back can we trace this? Do we have a presumably we have no origin point, but what's the earliest date that you found?
Oh, now you right. Well, the earliest versions are 18th century.
Are they
Now,
versions that turn up in Child's
right,
collection?
the earliest one in Child he dates to the 1730s.
Okay.
Um, the all the versions in Child except one um, are Scottish and date come from 18th and 19th century collections of ballads or songs. Um, there is a there is there are various chapbook and broadside versions. The only one of which that is actually has a date is dated 1799, and a chapbook published in Glasgow. All the other broadside and chapbook versions seem to be English.
Okay.
Um, so just sort of going back to, I didn't say Child has 13, but did I say that? Child has 13 versions and all but one of them are Scottish,
Yeah.
which is, not a negligible number, but on the other hand, it is not in the Barbara Allen or Lord Randall league.
Indeed. I've just looked at the Roud index on the Vaughan Williams site, and yeah, certainly if you look at like on the folk song index,
Well, if you sort of filter it by place,
yeah,
you'll find there's 47 entries from Scotland,
that's right.
which includes all these 18th and 19th century ballad and song collections, but it also includes this chapbook I mentioned, but also a lot of 20th century field recordings by people like Gavin Gregg, James Duncan,
Yes,
James Madison Carpenter, McCollum Seeger, Hamish Henderson, you know, the whole range of people who collected in Scotland in the 20th century.
and if you filter just through the broadside index, it's almost entirely England, but there's 19 entries in the broadside index, but there might be some duplicates. But that's 12 in England, three in Scotland, and maybe some that aren't. There's some reference only entries, but the three in Scotland, 1823 chapbook, yeah, and so for the Hutchinson chapbook. So, but it's like primarily in terms of print, what we've found so far is mostly England, whereas on the
Well,
sound recording side, field work, there's nothing in England at all.
yes, um, there are, yes, a number, at least, I don't know, about seven or eight English broadsides
And mostly in
from,
London.
the 1790s to the 1830s.
Yeah, and
And they're
mostly
all
London. Mostly
called
London.
mostly London. There's the one from Kendrew of York, but yes, I think the rest are. are London.
York, and one in Bristol as well. One. Uh, oh, it's a
Oh
manuscript
yes,
list of ballads from the Madden collection. It's a reference only rather than like we've
yes,
got
yes.
the
Sorry, I
text
wasn't.
or
Yeah, I wasn't counting those reference onlys, but yes, I was.
yeah, yeah.
The ones where you can actually find the text, there are
I,
there. I think there's about eight of them altogether, including the Glasgow
yes,
chapbook.
indeed,
Um,
yes.
yeah, in England, I mean, the only other piece of evidence is that John Clare um, wrote his own version of the ballad, and he called it "The Maid of Ockram," which is obvious. And from the text and that title, it is obvious that he must have seen or at least known about the broadside. And that is the
Right.
only evidence we have of really of the circulation of the broadside in England. You can assume it must have had some circulation in Scotland and Ireland, but really, evidence for England is pretty thin. So I must just mention there is one other version recorded in England from a woman in Wiltshire. But
Oh,
when you dig into it, you discover this woman was actually Ewan MacColl's aunt, um,
oh,
who,
okay.
being his mother's sister, was Scottish. So the fact that she was recorded in England is a bit of a red herring.
Right, okay, yeah. You have to peer through the weeds sometimes to see the actual information and figure out what that is. Yeah. So, but basically, yeah, not doesn't basically this song doesn't appear to have happened in oral tradition in England, but Scotland and
No.
America, this seems to be quite widely.
Well, in
Um,
Scot, it is, yes. I mean, it is certainly been found in the oral tradition in Scotland and Ireland. I mean, it has, I think, in America, but then it's sometimes difficult to tell which ones are really just pretty little foot versions. And did you mention earlier, there is at least one Canadian version?
yes, there is one. I mean, actually, if you filter the folk song index by country, Canada has four entries, but it's all the same singer and the same song, same recording, basically.
Right. Yeah.
Um, it's I've mentioned a few times on the podcast, Lorena Clark, Canadian singer, um, because Edith Folk collected her. Um, uh, and singing these songs. And so one of the entries is Edith Folk's collection. One of the entries is the Topic LP, A Canadian Garland, that is all of Lorena Clark's British
Hmm.
ballads. And then there's two separate books by Edith Folk, Family Heritage from 1994, and not sure there's a date for it, but her book, Traditional Singers and Songs from Ontario. Um, and it's all she just reprints the same version because that's the Lorena Clark version. But she collected her singing that in September of 1962, um, when she was doing some
Yes. Yeah.
research. So yeah, so Canada, although it says four, it's actually one.
Yes.
As
That's
we know from the Roud
how things
Index,
go. Yes.
that's the duplicate issue of the Roud Index. It's not an issue, but it's just you have to be aware of it if you are
Yes.
using the Roud Index for any sort of statistics, should we say?
Right. Well, having covered Scotland and England and Canada and sort of skated over America, we ought to discuss the position in Ireland.
Oh yes.
Um, there, essentially in Ireland, there are two main variants. One of conveniently mentions a place called Aughrim in County Galway, and the other one mentions a place called Cappoquin in County Waterford.
And until I was looking into this ballad in prep for this episode, I had heard the Kappa Quinn one quite a lot. I think purely by my sort of traditional folk music upbringing and being in a lot of the same folk clubs and singing sessions as you, I've heard people like Roisin White and Rosie Stewart and that ilk of Irish traditional singer
Yes,
singing the Kappa Quinn one.
yes.
And I hadn't quite clocked that was this song, that was this Roud number, you know.
Oh, yes. Um, was I going to go talk about that? I mean, we can talk about that now. I mean, essentially, yes, it is a version collected in the 1950s from a woman called Elizabeth Cronin or Bess Cronin,
That's right.
which was collected, yes, as I say, by various people, including Alan Lomax, Seamus Ennis, and Jean Ritchie. Um, I mean, it's obvious how, and then that is the version that basically got into the English folk revival.
Well, it was
Partly,
released on. It wasn't. It was the Alan Lomax recording was released on the what was put out by Cadmon and then Topic of those 10 LPs, the folk songs of Britain, volumes 1 through 10, and it's on volume 4, which is the first of the two child ballad volumes, and that's the Alan Lomax recording. So consequently, anyone who bought that would have heard the Elizabeth Cronin one.
yeah, I think most people in the English folk revival learnt it from that record.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, possibly, I mean, Shirley Collins sang it, and possibly she got it directly from Alan Lomax, which seems quite likely.
Very, very logical, I would say, yeah.
And the other strand of Irish versions, the one that mentions Ochrym, is the only non-Scottish version in Child, is a version which was sent to Child in the 1880s by a man in Michigan who was presumably of Irish origin, and he remembered it from his youth in Westmeath in the 1830s, but he only sent it to Child in the 1880s. So it's gone through a sort of process of being in one man's memory for quite a long time before it resurfaces. So
Sure,
I
yeah.
think, I'm not sort of disparaging it, but there's sort of some uncertainties in this process of transmission. And I can't find any other written or recorded versions until a lot later. Not Well, we'll get on to James Joyce in a minute. The earliest recording I've found is from the 1980s. A recording we're probably going to be playing later from a woman called Peggy Delaney.
That's right. I was listening to that one before we started.
Now, the James Joyce connection is that he knew the song, which is interesting in itself. And it plays a crucial role in a short story called The Dead, which is the last item in Dubliners, which was written about 1907, published 1914. Now, what I can't find is, apart from some bits in Joyce's correspondence, I can't find any other Irish versions of that period, either text or music. There, look if you look online, you're looking for James Joyce and the Lass of Ockham and things like that. What you'll come across is a modern version, a modern setting, if you like, of the ballad, which was put together for a film directed by John Huston. I don't know, you're a film enthusiast, aren't you?
I am.
So 1987, The Dead by John Huston.
Oh, I have not seen it.
Ah, starring his daughter.
Angelica Houston.
Absolutely. Whoever arranged the music for that film found a version, I don't know, in Bronson or from its original source, but it is a Scottish tune
Right.
from an
Okay.
early Scottish manuscript, um, which in the film they used to set the words of the Lass of Aughrim, because in the story it is very important that that song is heard to be sung. So you couldn't make the film without having the words and the tune, but somebody or other searching around came up with this Scottish tune. And nowadays, if you found recordings associated with some James Joyce celebration, Bloomsday, and all those other things, uh, the version that will be performed is this version that was put together for the film.
Yeah, I'm just looking it up now. The music for the film was written by Alex North, who's a composer. But I've just looked at the soundtrack section on the film's IMDb page. It says "The Lass of Aughrim," traditional Irish ballad, sung by Frank Patterson. That's all it says about it. So
Yes,
that
well,
yes, we'll have to.
I wouldn't argue with traditional Irish ballad. The
No,
only as issue, as I say, is that Joyce didn't write down music in no musical notation for it or anything. So, as I say, when the film was made, they found this Scottish tune and used that.
yeah.
As I said, the English broadsides all called the Lass of Aughrim. That's Ocram.
Yeah.
The Irish ballads are sometimes called the Lass of Aughrim, spelled Aughrim.
Ah,
And if I
okay.
try to say them, they both come out sounding very similar.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's not a coincidence. I mean, they're far too similar to be unrelated, it seems to me. But there's a question, which came first? And there are a number of issues here. I mean, Aughrim, I think, is a fictional. The O with the O is fictional, whereas Aughrim is a real place um, in County Galway. In fact, there's more than one place called Aughrim in Ireland,
Okay.
but the Aughrim, which is in County Galway, is the most famous because there was a battle of Aughrim in 1691 in the Williamite Jacobite Wars, and also Galway is where James Joyce's wife came from,
Ah,
the
okay.
Barnacle. The so yes, so the O version is fictional and the A version is real. Now, the earliest surviving versions are the English or Scottish ones with an O, and Aughrim isn't found, and the Irish Aughrim is not found until this version that was sent to Child, recollected from the 1830s,
Right. Okay.
which is somewhat later than the earliest broadsides. And also, the ballad was recorded as still as Annie O'Loughlin in an Irish source in the 1850s. So even later in the 19th century, the Lass of Aughrim was not a universal title in Ireland.
Okay.
I mean, you can see how the change might have happened in either direction. I mean, if Aughrim with an O came first, you can imagine Irish singers would have substituted a familiar place name. And as I say, Aughrim is a famous place name in Ireland because of the battle. Or
Yeah.
alternatively, Aughrim with an A. If the Irish spelling came first, you can see that English or Scots singers or broadside printers might have discarded this strange Irish looking word and substituted something sort of phonetically similar. So
I mean,
I don't,
if you just heard someone say Okram and then tried to write it down, you wouldn't assume
yes,
there's
I
a
mean,
GH in there.
yes, quite. I mean, some broadsides. derived from people singing or reciting a ballad to a, you know, note taker in the broadside printer's premises.
Yeah.
And if this is in London and some Irishman comes up with saying this is the Lass of Aughrim, they're going to put something that is phonetically similar, as in Ok Ram.
Yeah,
But I
indeed.
mean, I personally think that question is wide open. I don't know which way this has occurred. I mean, there are writers who've definitely come down on one side or the other. People who there's one scholar who says, well, the broadside ballad must be older because it is sort of purer, it's sort of less corrupt than the oral versions or the early printed versions. And equally, someone, says, well, the Octram version must have come first and it must have, it came to Ireland from Scotland direct as the Lass of wherever, and turned into the Lass of Aughrim by the Irish, and then went across to England to be turned into a broadside. I mean, the problem with that is there's absolutely no evidence of it being in Ireland under any title, let alone as the Lass of Aughrim, before this version in Child, which has a question mark or two over it anyhow.
Yeah. And that's version H in Child, isn't it? I've just looked it up myself.
Yes.
Communicated by Mr. G.C. Mahon of Ann Arbor, Michigan, as sung by a labourer at Tyrrell's Pass, Westmeath, Ireland, around 1830. With 9 verses, but there are some gaps there.
Yes. Well, if you look a little later in Child, it actually on I can't remember where. I mean, it does tell you this is contained in 2 letters from this Mahon to Child,
Okay.
which are now in the Harvard University Library.
Right.
And I have been in communication with them, and just to establish they're there, and I can't decide whether to pay for scans of them to see what these letters actually say and whether they shed any more light on this process of transmission.
Right, yeah. And that version starts with, "Oh, who'll comb my yellow locks with the brown berry comb, and who will be the child's father until Gregory comes home?"
Yeah, so it's one of the versions that starts with the who will shoe
Yeah,
type verses.
but it's still definitely Lord Gregory rather than the separate
Yes, I mean it's
name.
not. Yes, it is a version. It's definitely a version of the ballad. And yes, as I say, it's the
Oh
earliest.
yeah, and then later on in the song, it's in verse 4. "Oh, if you be the lass of Achrim, as I suppose you not to be, come tell me the last token between you and me." So yeah, it's definitely the lass of Achrim.
Oh yes,
But yeah, just looking at the versions in Child. What have we got? The first one, Fair Isabel of Roch Royal. So we actually get a name. She gets a name in that one. Fair Isabel.
then what the first Child A version?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, she gets a name. There's more names coming up, but Fair Isabel of Loch Royal. We had Isabel last week in Lord Lovell because some of the earliest versions there's Isabel and Nancy Bell and things. Um,
Well, yeah. I mean, is that Child A version is the only one that actually uses the name Isabel.
yeah,
Annie is the most common name she has. Though in lots of the versions, she's not actually named. She's called just the Lass of something or other, Lass of Rock Royal, Lass of Loch Ryan,
yeah. That's why I was
and
looking at version A again, and yeah. "But I am fair Isabel of Roch Royal, banished from kith and kin. I'm seeking my true love Gregory, and I would I had him in."
yes. So
35 verses, and it ends with "The one was buried in Mary Kirk, the other in Mary Choir.
that's
Out
right.
of one there sprung a birk, out of the other a briar. So thus you may well know by that they were true lovers dear." So that's quite an extensive version. It ends with that.
It's a long version. The naming her Isabel is unique to that version,
Yeah,
and the banished from kith and kin is not unique, but it is sort of not very common. And the rose and the briar and the thorn, or whatever it is, that is an uncommon
yeah.
verse in the Lass of Rock Royal.
But then Child's A versions tend to be the most complete or longest,
Yes,
or the
there
one
was.
he felt was the sort of the best version in a sense.
Yes, I mean yes, he sort of. Yes, they are sort of. They're sort of maybe the earliest, or maybe ones, even if they weren't the earliest, ones that he thought were nearest to the original.
Yeah.
Um,
But yeah, then the
what?
second, but then version B in Child, the Bonnie Lass of Loch Royan, from Herd's manuscript, starts with "Oh, who will shoe my thy bonny feet?" It starts with that, but it does go on for 28 verses, and that's yeah, Lord Gregory, but just the Lass of Loch Royan. I don't think she has a name in that one.
Yes, I think that version is sort of something Child has put together from sort of different things in
Oh
the
yes, he did
Herd
say at the beginning of
manuscript.
that version, he did say the Herd's manuscript gave the first 10 lines, and then another Herd's book, Scottish songs book, the rest of it, I think, or something along those lines. Um, Version C in Child has Lord Gregory. Are you the Queen of Queensberry, nor one of the Marys three, but I am the bonny lass of Rocklaw Hill, seeking Lord Gregory.
Yes, so that's one of the ones with questions about who are you.
That's right, yeah. And then
Yes.
version D, it's Fair Annie in that one. Anny.
Yes, I mean, as I say, the A version is the only one that in which she is Isabel.
Yeah, that's right.
Either most of the rest, she's Annie or some sort of version of Annie,
Indeed. Uh,
or as I said, she's not named. There are lots where she's just the lass of wherever.
yeah, that's right. Version D has,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm not a witch, nor wild warlock, nor mermaiden, said she. I am but fair Annie of Rock Royal. Oh, open the door to me. And he is Love Gregor rather than Lord.
Yes, his name is usually something like Lord Gregory. Sometimes it is, look, yes, Gregor, or sometimes he's actually Love Gregory, which seems slightly weird to me. I mean, I could understand if it was her talking about him, she might say, "Oh, Love Gregory,"
Yeah.
but sometimes it's the mother or someone else, which doesn't sound quite right.
And then version Ian Child, it's Love Gregor and Fair Annie of Rough Royal, Rough Royal,
I
Rough
sort of think I sort of would tend to think that should be pronounced as a sort of guttural as well, so it should
Rough
be not rough but rough.
Roch. Yep, you're quite right. I'm just reading it as it is here. Version F in Child from the Herd manuscript. Um, Are you the lass of Rock Royal seeking Lord Gregory? Version D, Love Gregory. There you go. The Buchan.
Yeah.
That's Buchan's manuscript. Some people have a problem with Buchan. Um, and Lady Janet in that one. Back to Janet again. But she had not been in childbed a day but barely 3, till word has come to Lady Janet, love Gregory she would never see.
Yes, that's child G. Yeah.
Yeah, and then H, I'm just blasting through this now. H is Gregory, and if you be the lass of Ochrim. Um, and then version I is Gregory, although the versions get shorter and shorter now. Gregory, version J says Gregory, and version K says Gregory. Yeah, so it's variations on a theme with the occasional outlier like Isabel.
Well, but Isabella's a real outlier. Janet actually, has the letters A and N in it, a bit like Annie.
Like Annie,
But
yeah,
yes,
exactly, yeah,
anyhow,
indeed.
yes. I mean, just talking about what Charles says, he says that, well, talking about maybe origins, um, is that Charles says it is certainly much earlier than the first manuscript and printed source, and suggests that it was a ballad which had first appeared in the later Middle Ages, which is sort of speculation, really. Um, Bronson says the Lass of Rock Royal must have been circulating freely before the middle of the 18th century because Child's A text from a manuscript of the second quarter of that century is in a state obviously disordered by traditional transmission,
Ah, okay.
which, yes, I mean, I think he's right. It does sort of show signs of having been transmitted orally, or at least gone through some process since its original version. Um, and some people and people who argue about what origins, differ on which of the versions around best is closest to the original. And some people say, well, it's child A, because that's the oldest one, though it's, yes, though obvious, and these corruptions mean it must actually date from some earlier time. Um, so therefore the broadside text is a better version because it is sort of in some ways more coherent. But there are some corruptions in the broadside text as well. There's one
Yeah,
place where you can see there's a whole verse disappeared because it's in the middle of this business where she is being questioned by these people she meets on her way to Lord Gregory. And there's if you look at it and try to think what's going on here, it's obviously four lines have just missed out. And at least one person says, well, this is obviously because the printer was doing it from a previous printed copy and his sort of eyes slipped down because in this where you've got these three parallel questions, it's very easy if you're reading it for your eye to skip down to the next verse.
right, yeah, yeah.
And so all right, so there's at least one corruption in the broadside text. There are obvious corruptions in the earliest printed ballad text. So, well, we don't know, I think.
Indeed.
Well, we don't know at all which
There,
comes
there have
first.
been some mentions of a possible origin sort of story or origin sort of tale in like folk tales and things. Um,
Yeah.
in the LP A Canadian Garland of the Lorena Clark songs. Um, they're all collected by Edith Folk, and this LP was recorded in 1965, first issued by Topic in 1965. And Edith Folk wrote, the story has been traced to the medieval tale of the accused queen, in which the lovers were Annie and Gregor, and similar tales were told in several European countries.
Yes. The I'm no expert on this. I've no nothing beyond what I have read, sort of in the course of digging into this ballad.
Yeah,
But it seems to me sorry, the important thing about the story of the accused queen is this woman put onto a boat and sort of cast off to sea, and then she goes through various adventures, various little episodes on the way. Um, and so the big parallel between the accused queen and the Lass of Rock Royal is this woman being on a boat, seemingly alone, or as I said earlier, maybe she's the important person, but there are sailors there as well.
Yeah.
Anyhow, and if that is and one of the oh, right, let's say not the origin, but one of the things that are fed into the early ballad, um, then that must mean that versions which have this journey and sort of emphasize this that Fair Annie is on this boat and meets people on the way, like the robbers or merchants. That must mean that versions that have that episode in it are preserve more of the original. And so that leads you, this is another reason for saying, oh, well, the broadside version is one of the early versions because that includes the journey to Lord Gregory's castle.
Yeah. Yeah. I just want to, and also Peggy Seeger, when she recorded it in the 80s with Ewan McCall in the Blood and Roses Volume 5, she did some sleeve notes. And wonder if we could find this journal. She said that, yeah, David Fowler in the Journal of American Folklore, 1958, presents a case for the identity of the lass as the accused queen, heroine of medieval folktale and romance, who is best known as Constance, the virtuous lady of The Man of Law's Tale of Geoffrey Chaucer's Canterbury Tales. So there we go. We've got a
Well,
Geoffrey Chaucer vague Geoffrey Chaucer link going on here as well.
yes, I've got a copy of that David Fowler article. Which I can send to you if you like.
Sure, I'll read it. I'm not sure how much stock we're taking it, but I'll read it. Um, is there anything else we want to talk about, or should we just go? Can we go on to the recommended listening and wrap up?
I mentioned that John Clare has rewritten it, but his poem wasn't published until long after his death, so I don't think it had any great influence on anyone else.
Right.
Robert Burns wrote a version called Murk is the Midnight Hour, which did pass into the tradition, and so that it has its own round number of 22558,
Oh,
which I
that's
think
right.
we were
Because I had
discussing.
actually because we've got leading into the recommended listening. I've got a field recording, or it's not a field recording, but it's traditional singer Stanley Robertson, Jeannie Robertson's nephew, um, singing a song labeled Lord Gregory, and consequently, I had put it in my list. But of course, it turns out to be, as you just said, Roud 22,558. Um, different song entirely. Uh, and that's why the Roud Index is helpful, as opposed to just looking at song titles.
Yes, well, yeah, what Stanley Robertson sings, a verse which is sort of taken from one of the texts of the ballads, I don't know which one, but then the rest of what he sings is actually Burns' poem. So,
Yeah,
which, so I mean, has its own rad number, as we've said, but it is actually derived from the Lass of Rock Royal.
yeah, sure.
And what were we going to? Yes, where we the point we to, I think, is saying that this beyond the sort of historic area that we've been talking about, the is actually still in the oral tradition in Scotland and in Ireland.
Yeah,
And if we're talking about recordings of traditional singers, then the one you absolutely have to start with is Elizabeth Cronin, Bess
uh,
Cronin.
absolutely. There's, as I said, you can get that on the Folk Songs of Britain Volume 4, but I think there's also there are some LPs of Elizabeth Cronin, and I think they're on there as well.
Yes, I mean she was recorded by at least three different collectors, and in fact, all somewhere or rather on YouTube.
Yeah,
The There are lots of subsequent Irish singers, I think, have all learnt it directly or indirectly from Bess Cronin,
yeah, I
because
reckon so as well. Yeah,
they are they all begin with this "I am a king's daughter who strayed from Cappoquin," and they sing her tune. So even though you might we could say yes, well they are definitely traditional singers, traditional versions. Um, they are they are ones that have been through a process of transmission from a known singer.
indeed, indeed so.
Uh, One of the more most well, in terms of the pick other of those, there's quite a nice recording by a woman called Teresa Mullen, which is Irish. I mean, her name is Irish, so that's my approximation of how you pronounce it.
Yeah,
I could see the spelling. There's a version recorded by Seamus Ennis from a man called Thomas Moran, which is a slightly different version, and I don't think derives from Elizabeth Crone. Um,
yeah,
one of the most interesting, to me, one of the most interesting ones is one recorded from a woman called Peggy Delaney, which is not a Cappoquin version, a Lass of Ochram version, and that is interesting. It's a 20th century, and it seems to be, unless I can find something in Carpenter, but those would anyhow. It seems to me this is actually the first time we have a recording of a version of the ballad, as late as 1960 or something.
yeah. Peggy Delaney is recorded sometime between 1973 and 85 by Jim Cowell and Pat McKenzie. That's on the Musical Traditions CD release and download now of From Puck to Appleby. And
Yeah,
Carroll and Mackenzie did note in their booklet, this is undoubtedly a fragment of the ballad known as the Lass of Rock Royal, Lord Gregory, etc. And they mentioned Geoffrey Chaucer as well, as in there have been comparisons made to Constance's
yeah.
story in Chaucer's The Sergeants at Law's Tale. Peggy Delaney learned it from her. Learned Peggy Delaney learned it when a child from her father, Michael McCarthy Senior, who was a travelling tinsman and horse dealer from County Clare. Just I'll mention. Well, I've mentioned Lorena Clark already, but if you can find it, there's a topic LP called "A Canadian Garland," which is really good. That's a really good LP. I'm a big fan of that one. A Canadian Garland, folk songs from the province of Ontario, and yes, it does appear to be a selection of British ballads. Mostly, you've got things on. Oh no, you've got "Rattle on the Stovepipe." That's not a British ballad, but you've got Lord Gregory and the House Carpenter and the Banks of the Nile and things like that on it, which are very good. And I think I'll just finish off by saying that yeah, back to Peggy Seeger again. Her and Ewan McCall's book, "Traveling Songs from England and Scotland," their big collecting splurge, where they collected a lot of Queen Caroline Hughes, a lot of gypsy singers and Caroline Hughes and people. They did collect this song, and I think on the Kiss to Riches website archive, there are recordings of Charlotte Higgins singing this song.
But yeah, the Kiss of Riches has recordings of her collected missing. Yeah.
Hamish Henderson, that's right. But Ewan and Peggy collected her reciting Lord Gregory. Open, Charlotte Higgins. Open the door, Lord Gregory. Open and let me in. For the rain rims doon my bonny yellow hair, and the dew falls on your son. And that's a good 14 verses, although some are 2 lines, some are 4 lines, some are 9 lines. It's a bit of a mixed bag of. Oh, it says the layout of Mrs. Higgins' recited text. The stanzas would appear to be laid out arbitrarily, but as the piece was recited, sometimes as poetry and sometimes as prose, we have ended the verses where pauses were made. That's why some of the verse lengths seem to be odd. This is either Ewan or Peggy's own transcription of the Charlotte Higgins recitation of Lord Gregory. But yeah, and I've managed to get my hands on the recordings from Ewan and Peggy's book, and so I'll probably play maybe a bit of the recitation of Charlotte Higgins, and if I can find the Kiss to Riches page, I'll play a clip of Charlotte Higgins singing Lord Gregory as well. That would be quite nice.
Yeah.
But I think we better leave things there. And yeah, it's been excellent to have you on again. And what an interesting song as well. Really, a lot of some songs you have like I can't remember what songs are covered, but there are in some songs on this podcast so far where it's like its earliest version is a thing and it hasn't changed at all, and it's still like that now. And there are some songs that have significantly changed where they're almost not the same song at all. And there are some songs sort of in the middle. It kind of is, they've always been the same song, but there's so much variety in it that it's hard to keep track of it all sometimes. Vic Gammon had that problem with the Young Hunting episode. It's quite hard to keep track of all the variant bits,
Yes, I mean, I find this difficult to keep hold of because you're trying to follow strands in different directions, because you some things you're trying to sort of look at text and see where that's gone when you're looking at things chronologically, or you're looking things for sort of themes which don't necessarily correspond to some chronological order. And also, as with anything interesting, I think you end up with as many questions as you started with, really, because, as I say, looking at the origins, what's the earliest version? How did it get from, what's the relationship between the broadsides and the collected texts, and all these questions, and the answer is well, this or it could be that.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting to discuss these things. Maybe a little more discussion. Some of these, we might be able to tease out some of the little mysteries here.
Indeed so, and I think we've managed to do that somehow. But let's finish there, and yeah, we'll hopefully see you back at some point on the podcast or the Patreon. But for the time being, Martin Nail, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Matt.
A huge thanks again to Martin Nail for providing us with the history of the Lass of Roch Royal. And that brings us to the halfway point in the episode, so let's hear some traditional versions of this song. So what you're going to hear now is a clip of a recitation of the song from Charlotte Higgins, and then the song sung by Lorena Clark from Canada, and then 2 Irish ones, Peggy Delaney and Elizabeth Cronin.
Oh, open and let me in, for the rain runs down my bonny yellow hair, and the dew falls on your son. Oh, open the door, Lord Gregory, open and let me in. Oh, do you mind, Lord Gregory, when we sat on the hill together, we exchanged the rings of one another's hand, but I vowed that the best was mine. I vowed that the best was mine. Mine's was o' a gid gold, and yours was o' silver fine. Oh, do you mind, Lord Gregory, when we exchanged the cloaks of one another's back, but I vowed that the best was mine.
Oh, mother, I had a warning dream. Oh, mother, I had a dream. I dreamed the bonny lass of Loughlin Lane was tapping to get in. Lie down, Lord Gregory. Lie down and take a sleep. It was just an hour and a half ago. She was tapping at your gate. Oh, you vile woman, oh, you vile woman, oh, you vile woman, you. Why didn't you rise and let her in, or even waken me?
I am the maid of Auchraham, as they take me now for to be. And I am in search of young Henry, pray to God I will him see. The rain it has wet my yellow locks, and the snow has beat my skin. And the babe cold in my arms, will you rise up and let me in? If you were the maid of Auchraham, as I take you now for to be, what is your last token between you and young Henry? It is well I do remember that night in your father's hall, when you stole away my poor heart, the fairest of them all.
I am like King's daughter, straight from Cappoquin, in search of Lord Gregory. May God I'll find him. The rain beats at my yellow locks, and the dew wets me still. The baby's calling my arms, Lord Gregory, let me in. Lord Gregory is not here, and in sword can't be seen. He is gone to bonny Scotland to bring home his new queen. Leaving now those windows, and likewise this hall, where a step in the sea you should find your downfall.
And I'll put links to where you can find those recordings in the show notes. On to the second half of the episode. To chat more about the lass of Roch Royal and her history with folk music, I was joined by the lead singer of Steel Eye Span, Maddy Pryor. Well, a big hello and welcome to In the Roud, Maddy Pryor. Hello.
Hello. How you doing?
Hi. Actually, as people have heard on last week's episode, I've not been very well recently. I had managed to get COVID again recently, but I'm okay now. But the last few days have been pretty awful. But today is a step in the right direction.
Oh, well, I hope you get over it soon.
Thank you. Well, I am basically over it now. I'm no longer infectious or contagious, but and it's basically all the symptoms are gone except my worsened asthma, which is always a long-standing residual side effect from COVID. It hits my asthma the worst, and it takes ages for my asthma to get back to where it usually is. So that's where I am at the moment. But enough of my tale of woe. How are you?
Good. Out on tour. So.
Of course, this is in the middle of a big Steel Eye Span tour.
Yes.
Very exciting. This is it's one. It's been a couple of weeks, hasn't it? You've been on the road, and then up until Christmas.
Yeah, we're out till Christmas, pretty much.
And then another batch. Did I see another batch in February for a month or two?
I'm doing some stuff with Peter Knight in February.
Oh, nice.
And just 3 or 4 gigs, and then we're out. I'm out with Steel Eye April, May, I think.
Ah, excellent.
And I'm teaching in between, you know.
Nice, very good.
I keep busy.
Exciting to have things to be booked in for next year.
Yeah.
Good. I'll be off to. This is me bragging now. I'll be off to New Zealand for a week and a half in January.
Lovely.
It's very exciting with my harmony trio Culverake. We're going to Auckland Folk Festival and a handful of folk clubs around it as well.
Excellent. That'd be nice.
Still haven't booked the flights though. That's the next job. Anyway, we're not here to talk about my trip to New Zealand, which hasn't happened yet anyway. It's great to have you on because we haven't. I mean, this is probably the longest conversation we've ever had. We've met briefly at Whitby Folk Week earlier this year.
We did.
It was very nice. You came to the interview Vic Gammon did with me on my podcast.
Yes, it's been very interesting listening to the podcast. Apart from the history, which is interesting, I look at the ballad slightly differently. But also is to hear all these young performers and realise how many there are and how much I've missed of the folk scene because I sort of moved out of it into Steel Island and up to the Scottish borders, and I didn't quite clock all the stuff that was going on. So it's been really interesting.
No, very good. Yes, fascinating for me as well. Learning so much about folk songs and about other people's sort of background in folk music and things, and then promptly forgetting all of it because yes. I have to record multiple interviews a week for this sort of thing, and it can't all stay in my brain as much as I'd like it to.
No, best not.
Especially when I've got 4 more songs to learn for this trip to New Zealand, and my duo with George Sansom is touring next year, and we've got some more songs to learn for that. So I'm having to learn more songs and my own solo stuff, learning more songs whilst also learning about all these songs for the podcast. So
it all feeds into each other.
Exactly, and it's carol season at the moment in Sheffield, so my brain is swimming with the lyrics to 25, 40 different carols.
Excellent.
and 15 different melodies for while shepherds watch their flocks by night.
Yes. It was the only set of words in the prayer book.
That's right. Indeed, it was. So that's all fun and games anyway, and just about keeping afloat there. Although having COVID for a week didn't help. But back on it now. So we're here to talk about Lord Gregory, Lass of Roch Royal. Before we get into that, though, give us a bit of Maddy prior history. How did you? What was your introduction to folk music? How did you find it, or was it thrust upon you at an early age? What's the story?
No. There was none of it in my. Apart from at school, there was a bit of. We were taught things like. In fact, I learned "Lark in the Morning" at school, but I only sang it when I saw it in a folk song journal because I was a bit of a snob about that sort of thing. But the other song that we were taught at school was John Barleycorn, but nobody ever explained it was about beer. so it was an incredibly violent song that our singing teacher taught us.
Yeah, we have that whenever band I used to be in, we performed John Barleycorn, and if there were people in the audience that didn't know weren't prepared for what was coming, the look of shock on their faces as we carried on through this ballad. Only to find out that it's a metaphor, an allegory for brewing beer.
Making beer, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
And so I didn't really engage with English folk music for a long time. I was into blues. I drove Reverend Gary Davis around for a month in 65, I think.
Amazing.
And stuff like that. So I was all into the blues, and then I drove an American couple around, and they said, "You've got to stop singing American because you are absolutely crap at it," So I said, "Oh, all right." But I was mortally offended, but they gave me all these tapes. They had loads of reel-to-reel tapes, and I had a player, and they said, "Go away and listen to those." And I went, "Oh God, blimey!" And I listened to these old singers, and I kept listening, and eventually I got my ear in, like you do. If you want to learn about new music, you have to work quite hard at it, unless it just picks you up. And once I got it, of course, I just said, and then I met up with Tim, and he was on the same journey, the pair of us. And all our friends said, "Are you singing that English stuff?" Because they thought it was, they were all into the blues. And when Tim and I got together, we moved to London. We moved to Tony Foxworthy's flat, actually, in Archway. And and we went to the Sharp House for however long it took, and we listened to every record in that. There was a case with records in, and we just listened and picked out the songs that we liked, and one of them was Elizabeth Cronin, and that's I couldn't remember that it was Elizabeth Cronin, but she got very similar style to Paddy Tunney, so I in my head I thought it was Paddy Tunney, but no, it was Elizabeth Cronin, and I heard it on those records.
Wow. Yeah, because I was thinking the other day that, I mean, I know, yeah, effectively those 3 albums that you did with Tim Hart, but in particular, I think the Folk Songs of England Volumes 1 and 2 are like, they may even be like some of the earliest kind of on the folk revival like proper professional revival albums in a way of English traditional songs.
They were. I think Martin. I'm not sure he did. Did he done that first album?
I don't think so.
No. I think it gave us a status that was extraordinary at the time because nobody had them, and it was a gatefold. The first, or was the second one?
Oh, actually, let me just go. Actually, yes. Martin Carthy had made that self-titled first one was 1965, and then those two
ours was
68 and 69.
Were they 60? Oh, it could be, because the photograph on the back of one of them is 65, I think, at the Albert Hall.
Oh, okay.
I think there's a photograph of 65. So in my head, it's 65, but it's not. It's 69.
But certainly, then at least among the first of the very first kind of professional revival albums of traditional songs.
Yeah, well, other people they didn't have. We made it in Tony Pike. It was TP Records. We made it in his kitchen on a Revox, the first one, and 2 Revoxes with the second one, so that Tim could overdub melodeon and other instruments. But essentially, they were just made in his with the Revox. It took as long to make them almost as it took to play them.
Yeah, I read that somewhere actually. You said
it was one afternoon. You know.
There you go. Yeah,
but they have a it's a moment in time.
Absolutely, and yeah, I must say very influential on a lot of people. But so many of those particular versions are still what people sing now. I think it's very that's very. Not, I would say I was astonished by that, but it never struck me before those ones. But you listen to that and I think, so many of those ones are the ones that became the standard version for a lot of people. But,
well, for a long time there wasn't. If you didn't live in London, there wasn't the facilities. There wasn't the internet or anything. So everything was you learnt off of records. Or out of books, and not everybody read music. We didn't read music. So when I did, I think Earl Richard, I got the tune out of a book, but I couldn't read music, so it just went up and down like the tune did, you know. I just made it up essentially. I don't think you know what I mean. So it was it was much harder to find stuff.
That's right. Unless you actually went to Camden to Cecil Sharp House, and
that's exactly because we lived in Arch. We could do that, and it wasn't a big deal. And we spent, I don't know how long we spent there, but it was a long time because we got all our material, and we you know, and also there were still people about like Fred Jordan and Davy Stewart. I saw them at Loughborough. They were about singing and. Quite a lot of the old guys were still about and would come to places like Loughborough. So it was interesting and but very obscure at the time.
Indeed, yes. And then out of that came Steel Ice Bound, I suppose.
Yeah, well, Tim and I worked around the folk clubs for 3 or 4, 5 years. I don't know how long we did it for, and we were living in Archway, and Fairport had done Legion Leave, and everybody wanted to do something more because the folk clubs couldn't manage any more than 2 people. So financially, it couldn't sort of work. Well, you could probably do it, but we were sort of working full time, and so we that was our we wanted to do something more. And I didn't play an instrument. I did play banjo for a while, but that sort of dropped away. And we wanted to do some more. And Ashley and Tiger, as he was then, came with Gay and Terry, and they came to dinner. They came visiting a friend, I think, Trevor Crozier, and they came to dinner and said, "Do you want to join a band?" And we said, "Well, let's have a rehearsal and see what happens." And then we did, and it did, and nice. We made the album, split up, off it went.
and off it went for a long time.
Yeah.
Yes, I haven't listened to. Must confess, I've not listened to everything, but Steel Ice Man.
No, I've listened to quite a vast repertoire.
Indeed, I've listened to quite a fair bit now, but not everything. If I find an album that I really love, I then listen to it repeat ad nauseum for ages. Currently, been listening to Live at Last on repeat.
Oh wow! Gosh, I can't even remember.
It's loud, and it's just fantastic.
Yeah.
It's loud, and it's got the Black Freighter thing on it, which I
right,
which I adore. So I just
that's the one with Martin and John, and
it's the Montrose.
Has it got Montrose on it?
And it's got Montrose on it, the 15-minute Montrose, which I love. It's fantastic.
Fantastic. That was Rick put that together.
Yeah. And I love the story. We're not even on tangent now. This is even off tangent now. But I love the story that in Australia they wanted to release Montrose as a single, and they got into a recording studio and edited it down to 3.5 minutes.
I didn't know that.
You don't know that? I think
I've not heard that.
This is. I'll tell you what. I'll just for your own benefit, I'll find the thing because there's a page on Mainly Norfolk for Montrose because it's just one song. Highlight of the night of that gig was the 15-minute Montrose. Tim Hart describes as the most complicated arrangement ever undertaken by the band. Upon Australian release of Live at Last in late '78, Festival Records were given exclusive permission to edit this mammoth track down to an acceptable single length to promote the forthcoming album. 8 hours of editing work got the song down to 3 minutes 56 as an Australian only single of Montrose, with the B-side being Hunting the Wren from the live one as well.
Bloody hell.
So in Australia, there are some record singles of a 4-minute version of Montrose.
That's fantastic.
That's so
fantastic. Funny. I want to hear that.
It took 8 hours apparently to get that down to do that.
Well, it would.
Yeah, but it's brilliant. But yeah, that's a great album, that one. Fantastic. Anyway, and then with Steel Eye, you recorded a long time later. You recorded a version of Lord Gregory, and that's how we got to it.
The first one we did was the first one I did was, and I had sung it quite a lot. I've sung it with Rick playing bass, which is lovely. But the first one I did was with Nick Jones playing guitar, which was fantastic.
Oh, amazing!
And an Uilleann pipe player whose name escapes me, but it's on the record. And Danny Thompson playing bass. It was that was lovely. I like that version.
That's the Silly Sisters album, isn't it?
Yeah. And then we did it with Steel Eye later. It's just a wonderful tune, and it's been there right through my singing career, and it's always one that I like to go to. But it sort of just comes and goes. But it is absolutely Elizabeth Cronin's version, but I got the words. I sort of mixed the words out because I've always had a child ballad. That's what we've always gone to, is the child ballad.
Right. Yeah.
So,
brilliant.
I got the words sort of from that, but I liked her version because it's like a snapshot, and sometimes I like that rather than it being the massive narrative. It didn't. The core of the song is that moment on a windy beach with this tower, with this castle. So bleak. I love it.
Yeah.
And that gives it just a so powerful core.
Because I think Elizabeth Cronin one's. I think you say it's a snapshot, but it's still about 10 or 11 verses. It's still quite long.
Yeah, she's not done it as a massive story. I can't remember if she does the end, but where he wakes up. Because I always think of these songs. I mean, for me, the song is about the mother. It's about the mother controlling her son, and that's the kind of core of the story. And that the son is asleep. It's like the masculine side is just not there, and it's two women kind of.
Yeah. I can't remember. I'm looking at there's a transcribed set of lyrics.
Oh, right. Yes, I think it's on.
It's on mainly Norfolk, and
it is. I'm just looking at it. Curse on your mother.
Yes, the curse on your mother, and then come saddle to me the black horse.
I know. I just missed those out.
That final verse. Come saddle me the black horse, the brown and the grey. Come saddle me the best horse in my stable this day, and I'll range over valleys, o'er mountains so wide, and I'll find the lass of arms and lie by her side.
Yeah, I think I thought that was more. There were kind of those tropes that kind of come in that I didn't sort of. I don't know what I was thinking, but I didn't include them. I liked the thing of her just going off, and that was it. She was, because that's the core of the story for me. And
I think you were saying before we started recording this that you don't sing any of the bits about the who will shoe your pretty little feet.
No, I didn't put those in either because.
Or Elizabeth Cronin had all the who will shoe my babe's little feet.
Yeah,
and everything. So yeah,
I missed those out as well. I've no idea what I was thinking at the time. But that was.
So that's another 2 verses. So you got rid of 3 verses, which
I got rid of loads of verses. Hence
why you called it a snapshot, because it's a short version.
Because I did, and that's how I think of the song. I did another one called the Wimmel Boar, which is just a snapshot of a song, and I liked that because the great thing about the ballads is they can tell massive stories in very little. Yes. And to me, you don't need all the other stuff. For me, it's there in that.
Yeah.
The rain rains on my good clothing, and the dew stands on my chin. I mean, they're just brilliant lines.
Brilliant lines. Absolutely. I tend to go the other way. I'm in a way a completist. Not that I like the longest versions, but I do like a complete version, like with all of the stuff in it. I do sing some like epic length ballads, but partly that's because of my love for the Sussex traditional singer Gordon Hall. Hey, it's taken me 20 minutes to mention Gordon Hall.
Yes, I knew he'd come up sooner or later.
Yeah, I just love it so much, and he had like such long versions of things. I've made it my mission to learn all of his epic ballads, and I just think I haven't done them yet, but I've done some of them. But yeah, I just think that sometimes you can really get drawn into something on a.
Oh yeah, I mean it's. I do like. I mean, still I do a version of Tam Lin, which I absolutely love. And the story is just so powerful, and so are they are archetypal stories. They're brilliant stories to sing, and I think of them very largely as meditations. I think when I'm singing them, I'm going through the whole thing and they all have great profound depths, and they're about the dark. They are about the dark side. That's what they're about mostly. The good ones are all about the stuff that that are in films. We like. We want to know. We want to step close to that stuff, not in it, but close to it. We want to know about it.
We want to experience it from the comfort of our armchairs.
Exactly. Or from through a song. I did actually start to look up some stuff about a ballad about Child Owlet. I thought, oh look, this is real, and I read it. I didn't do that again. Because it's like I don't do true crime. You know what I mean?
No, I don't do true crime.
No, it's interesting. It has to be filtered through. I know it happens, but it has to be filtered through a cultural mesh.
Sure. Yeah, that's basically the argument Vic Gammon was saying back in back in season 1, we did the episode on Long Lankin, and yeah, he was saying and even the stuff he was saying about Young Hunting 2 weeks ago, Earl Richard, saying it's the stuff of horror movies.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, but I mean, you see, I also did some work with on Jungian analysis stuff, and Lankin, it comes out very differently if you look at it with that lens. Sure. You know, because if you look at who's there at the beginning and who's there at the end, that sort of remit. So there's the Lord, the lady, the baby, the nurse, and Long Lankin, and straight away the masculine principle disappears. It says goodbye. I'm off. Beware, you know. To this woman who's in jewels up in the tower, and who obviously is not equipped to do any of this, and then she comes down, and Lankin, in some versions, the very early versions, he's a mason. Masons are people you don't mess about with anyway. You know what I mean? These are heavy duty guys, and to banish the guy who built your system, it's like,
and he knows how to get in.
He knows how to get in, you know,
and it becomes a bit of a home invasion horror movie. And so there's all sorts of things.
But also it's about the feminine and the masculine, and you know, and all that sort of stuff. So, but and I kind of, you know, it's also a thing about don't, you know, pay the workforce. You know,
yes.
Then the society works, and
Indeed.
everybody doesn't die. The baby's the future. It's died. You know,
quite so.
Yeah. Anyway, so all that stuff. I look at the ballads in very much as profound things about how we live our lives and how our internal life works.
Yeah. And then in this one, in Lord Gregory, you've got the that whole thing about the mother pretending to be him in order to send away the.
Well, she doesn't. I mean, I don't get her pretending to be him. She just says he's not here.
Oh, okay. Martin, I think there are other versions where she does kind of pretend to be him.
Yeah, in my version, she just says he's not here. He's away in Bonnie, Scotland. I don't think that's in this.
Lord Gregory, he's not here, and henceforth can't be seen.
Henceforth, yes, that's right. She says he's not here. So
he's gone to Bonnie, Scotland to bring home his new queen. So
and if you think of it as the masculine principle, he's asleep.
Yes, that's right. He's not actually
asleep. He's not there, and
not involved particularly, is he? No.
No, and Walter Scott said that a lot of these ballads he reckoned were written by women, and quite often the action is by women, and the men are kind of not that active in it. You know, sometimes they are different ballads, but quite a lot of them it's about the women. It's about the women.
Indeed, we had a few songs earlier this season that have been about women, because we had it in a row. I mean, this season started off with Sir Patrick Spens, but then after that, it was Fair Annie, Child Waters, Fair Janet, and then Lady Masery, and that's all strong women, but at the hands of abusive men. It's quite tough in some respects, although some people sing them with the lens of these men are truly awful, and that's the takeaway from the song, which is a valid one, obviously. But then Judy Cook, the American singer, was our guest for the Child Waters episode, and she was saying that she didn't look at the song as an abusive man song. She looked at it as, wow, how this woman is so strong because she's endured all of this abuse and still and got through it all. You know, she's managed.
Yes, exactly.
To get through it all. She's not buckled anything.
And they're sort of teaching songs how to deal with this stuff, you know, as well. That's got that, you know, and also we do Alison Gross and King Henry,
of course.
which are the same story, but with different outcomes. You know, where she's the grisly ghost or whatever wants to lay with a young man, and in Rosie says no, and then Henry says yes, and the outcomes are all, in Henry she turns into a beautiful woman, and in Alison Gross he's turned into a worm. So there's kind of an element of like, this could happen, or this could happen.
Yeah.
Your response is relevant.
Because sometimes this song is also called "The Lass of Roch Royal" rather than Lord Gregory, which is probably a more appropriate title, because Lord Gregory isn't actually much to do with this song in the end. I mean, he's there and he's asleep, but it's more about the conversation between the daughter, in this case. Yeah, it's his mother and the woman that he's got pregnant, the king's daughter, rather than about him. Just like the Ballad of Tam Lin is really about Margaret or Janet or whoever the female character is named in that song, except somehow it's called Tam Lin. You get a load of songs like that. Well, I guess, but I think for a lot of times I think someone commented that so many of these ballads have the same female names in them. They're always Margaret or Janet or whatever. Annie, that's the other one. That it's quite hard to differentiate between the songs if you call them all Fair Annie or Fair Janet. So they can't all be called Janet something. And sometimes the names are different, like Tamlin and Gregory and things. So it could be just a way of differentiating between the songs rather than any, any sort of like specific viewpoint on the genders in the songs.
Right. Yeah. I think. Well, as I say, I think a lot of it. I think of them as internal stories. We've all got these characters in us, and it's how they play out in our lives as well. It's not just all that external stuff of people doing stuff, which they do, but it's also about our which is why we find them fascinating, because we've all got these aspects about us, and it's kind of interesting how they're dealt with in the ballads.
Yeah, and I guess actually, if you look at it from a different point of view, the events of this song and this main conversation between the mother and this young woman, it's happening because of Lord Gregory, and so I guess that's a reason for calling it Lord Gregory, if you want to call it that, is because it's without the character Lord Gregory.
But it's about them dealing with him.
Yes,
if you like, and they're different, and they're two different takes on it.
Yeah. You're singing the Elizabeth Cronin one, and so therefore Cappoquin is the place name.
Cappoquin, absolutely. Which is in Waterford, I discovered.
Oh, there you go. And that's certainly a way to tell. Sometimes you listen to someone singing a song and you can tell instantly where they got it from. And if someone sings this and it starts with "I'm a King's Daughter," that's straight from Cappoquin, you go, there you go, Elizabeth Cronin. It can't be anyone else.
No, it can't, no.
Well, they may have learned it from someone who learned it from Elizabeth Cronin, but it's it stemmed back from her, at least that one, it seems.
Absolutely. Well, I got it straight from her. So
well, yeah, it doesn't appear
but I did change the words, apparently.
Well, you are, as is your right.
I think what would have happened is, because I only listened to it on the record.
Yeah.
I would have got the tune from that, but I can't have listened. Well, I've listened to it a few times, but not a lot. And then I would have gone to the Child and done the words.
Had a look at all the words. But it does seem to be that Cappoquin pretty much just turned up in Elizabeth Cronin's one.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Because that doesn't mention Roch Royal, it's Cappoquin, so that all the other versions are going to be songs like Jean Ritchie singing Fair Annie of Loch Royan and The Lass of Roch Royal, as we call it, and some people call it, and all sorts of other places.
I never sing Lord Gregory, I always sing Love Gregory.
Indeed, and that's the other one, is that, there's that.
It's just, well. She sings Lord Gregory, but I kind of...
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
But then other versions have Love Gregory, making him not a lord, which I think...
Yeah.
I guess if you take away his nobility, as it were, then if she is still a king's daughter, then that offsets the sort of social balance, as it were, between the two characters. Because as Martin earlier was saying, it's Lord Gregory, and then some versions he sort of found a mention of some people saying that she's of lower social status than him, and that's an interesting sort of social and sort of status and dynamic and things. But then normally he's Lord Gregory, and then she's mentioned as being the king's daughter, which puts them both on a sort of similar kind of standing. But if he's Love Gregory and she is a king's daughter, that's potentially an ordinary person sleeping with a king's daughter. You know, it brings a whole new dynamic to the fore.
Yeah, I don't tend to take a lot of notice of that kind of on this song. Some songs it's important, but I feel because it's the one I sing, it's the ring. Yours was the purest gold, mine was false tin. Yours it cost a guinea, love, but I 'twas false within. You know. Yeah. So that's a kind of, and the same with yours cost a guinea, love, and mine cost a groat. Yours it cost, inferring, although it was better, in fact, it was false, so it was worse, which I thought was a really nice way of putting it. Nice way. Yeah, that was more interesting to me.
That's right. There's that thing that all of her gifts are more expensive,
or lesser, but more valuable because they have a heart.
Yeah, Elizabeth Cronin had she had the verse about changing the rings. Yours was pure silver, love. Mine was black tin. Yours cost 1 guinea, and mine was but 1 cent. But then a verse earlier, they exchange handkerchiefs as well. For yours was pure linen, love, and mine was coarse cloth. Yours cost 1 guinea, and mine but 1 groat.
Yeah. And I must have got the words as something from somewhere else because because I changed that.
Right.
I don't know whether it's in Child. I'd have to look it up.
Might be. Yeah, they're back on my. I can't bother. They're back on my shelf somewhere.
Yeah.
I went through them earlier, but that's fine.
No, it's not important.
Indeed.
It's just a different. The words do get slightly changed, and the meaning gets moved around. If you sing them for long enough, you know, you sort of.
Yeah.
They've just become what I sing without. I must have had a rationale which makes sense to me. Back then, you know.
It's all part of the sort of evolving folk process, really, isn't it? It's that's what.
Absolutely.
That's what it is, you know. And then, so a lot of people, as I said, if you think about this song on the folk revival, then a lot of people sing the Elizabeth Cronin one. And I think that comes, as you were saying before we started, I think that comes mainly from, I mean, obviously text is an important thing with songs, the words, but the melody that Elizabeth Cronin had is so good.
Yeah, it's a brilliant melody. I love it.
I think that's very attractive to a lot of people in looking for versions of the song, going, wow, that melody's brilliant. Let's sing that, you know. But you know, quite a lot of people have sung this over the years. We've only had one song this season where literally no one's ever sung it. And so it's nice to come back to a song where we are spoilt for choice in terms of recommended listening. Who would you recommend on this?
Well, I think that Ewan's version is the complete version. He's done the whole beginning, and it's a really lovely version. And he's used Elizabeth's tune more or less. You know.
Yeah, that's right. I think he's recorded it. He recorded it twice.
I only had one version, and it was the complete song, right, with all the talking on the boat. And
oh, right. I wouldn't know which one it is, but there's a.
There's lots of different episodes in the full ballad. Yeah,
that's right.
And he's done all of them.
There was an LP set in 1956 called The English and Scottish Popular Ballads, which was a load of child ballads, all sung by Ewan MacColl and A.L. Lloyd. And volumes 1, 2, 3, 4, and the fifth one was Great British Ballads Not Included in the Child Collection, which is quite an interesting one. There we go, And on volume 4, Ewan MacColl sang Lord Gregory. It's the end of side 1 of the first.
I haven't got those albums. I don't know.
Neither have I.
They're not. It's not Caedmon, is it?
No, that's a different series of LPs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the Folk Songs of Britain LP series that
Yeah,
came
because
in
I
once.
think I've got that somewhere.
Yeah, so have I. But this is originally on a record label called Riverside, and then later released in the 70s on Washington. But that was in 1956. It's on there, and then later Ewan MacColl recorded it in 1964 on his LP, the English and Scottish Popular Ballads Volume 2. There's lots of these LPs called the same sort of thing.
Yeah.
But a 1962 Folkways and Smithsonian Folkways LP called the English and Scottish Popular Ballads Volume 2, and there, track 2 on side 1 is Lord Gregory.
All right. And
So he's two Ewan MacColl recordings.
Presumably it's the same version, I would guess.
Maybe. He noted that on that one he said he learned it from Margaret Logan of Corsham in Wiltshire. So we'd have to do some investigating.
Oh, but that would be a different one then, presumably different tune.
Oh, but the sleeve notes that Kenny Goldstein wrote for the American LP says he learned that from Margaret Logan, so it's the same version on both ones, just not the Cronin one. Well, we'll have to listen to that at some point and have a look.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. But yeah, Ewan MacColl is definitely a key one, as always.
Yes.
Anyone else?
Alistair Roberts has done a version. It's I think more Scottish version.
Yes, Alistair Roberts was on this podcast about 3 seasons ago.
Yes, he's not very nice.
And fantastic singer, and he recorded that on an album he made in 2001 called The Crook of My Arm.
That's right.
That's his. I think that might even be his first album, and it's track 1 on his first solo album, recorded live to mini disc. That's how long ago that was on the revival, on the sort of modern folk scene. Recorded in July 2000, live to mini disc. It's going to be brilliant quality then. It's on mini disc because mini discs are fantastic quality. I'm almost sad we don't use them.
Ewan McLennan's done a version. I like Ewan McLennan. He's really good.
Oh yeah, Ewan McLennan. That's on his 2012 album called "The Last Bird to Sing."
Yeah. I haven't heard that one, but I do like his singing.
And that's called "The Lass of Ochram." That one.
Yeah.
And then yes, I mentioned a couple others. Shirley Collins and Davy Graham.
Right.
That's on the one album they made together. That
Yeah.
quite
What was it called?
seminal album called Folk Roots, New Roots.
Folk Roots.
With Shirley singing and Davy Graham doing a lot of guitar stuff. Very influential album, that one. And on there, in the middle of side 2 is Lord Gregory, which is very good. Catherine Roberts, who I've met a couple of times, but I was in a band with her brother Jamie for a few years. Catherine Roberts recorded it with her duo partner Sean Lakeman, and it's their first album called One, and it's track 3 on there, Lord Gregory. And I did listen to that one. I'm pretty sure that's the Elizabeth Cronin.
Right, it is,
yeah. And there we go. And if you want to go on the Mainly Norfolk page, and there's loads of versions there, but we'll just finish off by saying that yes, the same version, I imagine, as you said, but yeah, the Elizabeth Cronin one is you and June Tabor on Silly Sisters and Lord Gregory on Steel Ice Band's Bloody Men from 2006 as well.
Right.
And so, yeah, 2 for you as well there, too. So good you recorded it twice.
Yeah, well, yeah.
But years apart, though. It's not like you did it the next year.
Well, we did that with the Blacksmith. We put that in two.
You did? Yeah. I noticed that. I did a early Steel Eye albums listening the other week, and I thought, oh, that's the same song again. But, that's fine. That's what happens,
That's what you do.
But 1976 with Silly Sisters, and then 2006 with Steel Eye. But yeah, very good. Okay, I think we'll leave things there. And yes, that's been lovely to chat to you about this song, and lovely to have you on the podcast. You're streaming over Zoom to me live from a Premier Inn on the Isle of Wight.
Yes. It's the glamour that gets you down.
Oh, I know. It's just... so tonight you must be, I'm looking at your tour dates, you're in the Medina Theatre tonight on the Isle of Wight.
Yeah.
That's excellent. Yeah. Lovely. I've not been to the Isle of Wight since I was 3 years old, as my mother will remember, probably. It's excellent. So you've still got a good sort of, you're on tour to the 19th, basically. But Hey, well, but best of luck with the rest of the gigs, and thanks for coming. It's been marvelous.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Good, thank you. And hopefully we'll be nice to have you again at some point in the future. If depending on what the songs are, the beauty of this podcast being that not the beauty of it, but I don't have to pick the songs. Steve Roud picked the order of songs 50 years ago. And,
Right.
And without ever knowing that some idiot like me would go through it in order. They're not meant to be gone through in order. That's not the point of the index, but nevertheless, that's what I'm doing. But there may be opportunity for you to come back on at some point. But until then, Maddy Pryor, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I am a king's daughter, come straight from Cappoquin, in search of love, Gregory. May God I'll find him. The rain beats at me yellow locks, the dew wets me still. The baby's cold in my arms, love. Lord Gregory, let me in. Lord Gregory is not here, and he henceforth can't be seen, for he's gone to bonny Scotland to bring home his new queen. Leave now these windows, and likewise this hall, for it's deep in the sea you will find your downfall. Do you remember, love, Gregory, as we sat at the wine? We exchanged rings, and I, the best, was mine. Yours it was the purest gold, and mine but false tin. Yours it cost a guinea, love, but I 'twas false within. Do you remember, love, Gregory, that night in Cappoquin? You stole away my maidenhead and swore against my will. So open these windows, open and let me in. The rain rains on my good clothing, and the dew stands on my chin. Oh, it's I have built a bonny boat, all covered with pearl, and at every needle tack in it there hangs a silver bell. But I'll take down that mast of gold and set up a mast of tree, for it does not suit a forsaken maid to sail so royally. And I will leave now these windows, and likewise this hole, for it's deep in the sea I will find my downfall.
That was Maddy Pryor singing The Lass of Roch Royal. And that brings this episode to a close. What did you think? What are your thoughts on this song? I'd love to hear from you. If you'd like to get in touch with me, feel free to drop me an email at intheroud@singyonder.co.uk. I may appear like I don't reply to them. There's a backlog. I will get to them. I do promise you that. You can also visit the podcast on various social media platforms. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Threads and Blue Sky. Just search for In the Roud, a folk song podcast. If you are enjoying the podcast, I would very much appreciate it. It would give us a little rating and review on wherever you get your podcasts from. That really helps the podcast to reach a wider audience. It's all to do with algorithms and that sort of thing. Much appreciated. Over on our Patreon, last week we had Vic Gammon with us to kickstart this year's Carols mini-season with a look at Roud 1170, The Trees Are All Bare. If you feel so moved to support the podcast financially, then please do head on over to patreon.com/intheroud and you can sign up for either £5 or £10 per month and receive regular bonus content. There's no new episode this week, but next week, on the 18th of December, we'll have our second Carols episode, this time with John Kirkpatrick, to discuss Roud 514, The Holly and the Ivy. Sign up to hear this and more at patreon.com/intheroud. In the Roud is a media partner of Veteran, the traditional music label. Although this week's song does not feature on any of their releases, you can find details of their extensive catalogue on their website, veteran.co.uk. One last huge thanks to this week's guests Martin Nail and Maddy Pryor. Join me next week for episode 10, the final episode of this season. We will be looking at Roud 50, which is child ballad number 77. That's the song called Sweet William's Ghost. My history guest will be returning history guest person Sandra Kerr, and my singer guest will be a returning singer guest, Holly Clark. Until then, that's it from me. Stay safe, be well, and I'll see you next time in the Roud.